Do you know the average American spends more than 6 hours a day looking at screens, but less than 6 minutes looking inside their own mind? Pause for a moment. Let that sink in. Think about your own day. How often do you check your phone before you even get out of bed? How many times do you scroll while eating lunch or flip through emails right before falling asleep? The truth is, most of us are constantly connected to the outside world, yet deeply disconnected from ourselves. Welcome to Mindfulness, a space where we gently explore how to bring balance, awareness, and compassion into the workplace and beyond. This isn't about lofty philosophy or rigid rules. It's about real-life tools you can use the moment you finish reading. When Thich Nhat Hanh, the beloved Vietnamese Zen master, taught in the United States, he often reminded people, the present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. Yet, how often do we actually notice the present moment at work? Between deadlines, meetings, and the endless stream of Slack notifications, joy feels like a luxury. Peace feels out of reach. But here's the shock. The enemy stealing our peace is not our boss, not our workload, not even our inbox. The real thief lives inside. It's the restless mind that refuses to pause. Imagine a wild horse living in your head, dragging you wherever it wants to go. That's how most of us move through the day, pulled around by worries, past regrets, future anxieties, and constant chatter. You may be sitting at your desk, but in reality, you're racing miles away in your mind. And that wild horse is running your life. I remember one afternoon years ago, sitting in a brightly lit office in New York City. The hum of fluorescent lights overhead, the sharp ding of incoming emails, and the pressure of 3 looming deadlines created a cocktail of stress so strong I could feel it in my chest. I was functioning, but inside, I felt trapped, exhausted, disconnected. That day I realized something powerful. The biggest source of suffering wasn't my job. It was the way my own mind was reacting to it. That was the crack that let the light in. What if we could tame that wild horse? What if we could find a way to quiet the storm, even for a few breaths, right in the middle of chaos? This is not just a nice idea. It's a proven, life-changing practice. American meditation teachers like Jon Kabat-Zinn, Jack Kornfield, and Sharon Salzberg have spent decades showing that mindfulness is not abstract, it's practical, backed by science, and profoundly healing. Neuroscience research confirms that just a few minutes of mindfulness a day can reduce stress, increase focus, and even rewire the brain for greater resilience. But here's the key. Mindfulness isn't something exotic. It doesn't require you to sit cross-legged on a mountain for hours. It begins with something so simple, so close, that most of us overlook it entirely, our own breath. In the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. As you read this right now, try taking one slow, deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. Notice how, even for a moment, your attention shifts. Your shoulders drop. Your mind softens. That is mindfulness at work. And here's the invitation. Over the next sections, we'll explore how this practice, rooted in the wisdom of the Buddha, illuminated by teachers around the world, and validated by modern science, can transform not just your inner life, but also how you show up in the workplace. Because at the end of the day, your attitude in the office, in meetings, in every small interaction, comes down to the state of your mind. So, take another breath, smile gently. We are just beginning. Let's be honest. Most of us believe stress at work comes from external forces. The overflowing inbox, the demanding boss, the endless Zoom calls, or the uncertainty of whether we'll meet the next deadline. But here's the truth that might sting a little. Those things are not the real enemy. The real enemy is much closer. It's the restless mind that never stops talking. Think about it. You can finish a meeting, walk out of the conference room, and instead of feeling relief, your mind immediately replays every sentence you said. Did I sound stupid? Should I have phrased that differently? What did my manager think of me? that inner voice doesn't stop. Or you're trying to focus on an important task, but your thoughts drag you to yesterday's argument, next week's presentation, or that small mistake you made 3 months ago. It's like carrying a wild horse inside your head. You're supposed to be leading it, but instead, it's dragging you through mud, traffic, and storms. And no matter how much coffee you drink or how many hours you put in, that horse keeps running. Thich Nhat Hanh once described the mind as a monkey that never stops jumping from branch to branch. He reminded us gently, the mind can go in 1,000 directions, but on this beautiful path, I walk in peace. With each step, the wind blows. With each step, a flower blooms. That image is not just poetic, it's practical. The monkey mind, the wild horse, the restless chatter, this is the real obstacle to peace at work. And science backs this up. Harvard researchers conducted a study showing that the average person's mind wanders nearly 47% of the time. Almost half of our lives, we are not present with what we are doing. Even worse, the study found that mind wandering usually makes people less happy, not more. So if you're working on a project but daydreaming about vacation, chances are you're not only less productive, you're also less satisfied. The hidden enemy is subtle. It doesn't show up in your HR report. It doesn't appear on your company's annual performance review, but it quietly drains your energy, erodes your confidence, and creates unnecessary conflict. Think about the last time a coworker's comment upset you. Was it really their words, or was it your mind replaying and exaggerating them, adding layers of story and judgment? Jon Kabat-Zinn, one of the most influential American meditation teachers, often says, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." The waves are emails, meetings, client requests. They're unavoidable. The hidden enemy is not the wave. It's our inability to ride it without drowning in reaction. I remember working with a young professional named Sarah. On the outside, she was successful, climbing the corporate ladder, respected by her peers. But inside, she was drowning. Every time she got feedback from her boss, her mind spun for days. He doesn't value me. I'm not good enough. Maybe I'll lose my job. The truth was, her boss thought highly of her. The suffering wasn't caused by him. It was created by the unchecked chatter in her own head. This is the enemy we rarely name out loud. The constant, restless thinking that robs us of peace, clarity, and focus. But here's the liberating truth. If the enemy is inside, the solution is also inside. Buddha taught over 2,600 years ago that suffering begins in the mind, and he also taught the way out. Sharon Salzberg, another beloved meditation teacher in America, reminds us, mindfulness isn't about getting rid of thoughts, it's about relating differently to them. At work, this could mean pausing before reacting to an email, breathing before answering a tough question, or noticing when your inner critic starts attacking you. That pause, that moment of awareness, is like gently holding the reins of the wild horse. You don't need to kill the horse. You don't need to silence the monkey. You just need to guide it kindly but firmly back to the present. The hidden enemy loses power the moment you shine light on it. Awareness is like sunlight dissolving fog. When you notice your restless mind, when you actually see how it pulls you in 1,000 directions, you've already taken the first step toward freedom. And here's the beauty. You don't have to wait until you're at a retreat center in the mountains to practice this. You can do it at your desk, during a meeting, even while walking to the restroom. The battlefield is right where you are, and so is the victory. So the question is, are you willing to stop fighting external shadows and finally turn inward to face the true enemy? Because once you see it clearly, you'll realize it was never as powerful as it seemed. There's always a moment, a crack in the noise, when life whispers, "You can't keep living like this." For me, that moment arrived in the middle of a workday that looked perfectly ordinary on the outside, but felt like a breakdown on the inside. The office was buzzing with its usual rhythm, keyboards clicking, phones ringing, people rushing from meeting to meeting. But inside, I felt like I was drowning. I had slept maybe 4 hours the night before. My head was pounding, my chest was tight, and my mind wouldn't stop spinning. Deadlines, projects, what my colleagues thought of me, the fear of failure, it all crashed down at once. I remember staring at my computer screen, unable to focus, wondering silently, is this what success is supposed to feel like? That was the breaking point. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't quit my job or have some Hollywood-style dramatic exit. Instead, I walked into the restroom, locked the stall door, and just sat there, breathing, noticing how chaotic my thoughts were. And for the first time, I asked myself, what if the problem isn't the job? What if the problem is the way my mind is reacting to it? That tiny question planted a seed. A week later, a friend invited me to a mindfulness workshop led by a local meditation teacher. Honestly, I thought it was a waste of time. I had always pictured meditation as monks sitting on mountains for hours, far away from the real world. But something inside nudged me to go. And that night changed everything. The teacher began with something ridiculously simple. He asked us to close our eyes and just notice our breath. No incense, no chanting, no complicated philosophy, just breathing in, breathing out. At first, I felt restless. My mind kept screaming, "This is boring. You should be working. You're wasting time." But then, something shifted. For a split second, I felt a silence so deep that it startled me. The noise in my head quieted down. I could hear the hum of the air conditioner, the sound of someone shifting in their chair. And beneath all of it, I felt a calmness I hadn't known in years. It was just a few seconds, but it was enough. That was my turning point. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When you love someone, the best thing you can offer is your presence. How can you love if you are not there?" I realized I had been absent, not just for my friends and family, but for myself. I had been living everywhere except the present moment. Trapped in the past, anxious about the future, but never really here. And I'm not alone. I've heard countless similar stories from people across America. A young attorney who worked 70-hour weeks until his panic attacks sent him to the ER. Then he discovered John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction program and slowly learned to breathe again. A teacher in Boston who battled burnout until Sharon Salzberg's loving-kindness meditation helped her transform not just her classroom, but her own heart. A Silicon Valley engineer who thought meditation was woo-woo nonsense until Jack Kornfield's teachings helped him handle the pressure of startup life with grace instead of anger. The turning point doesn't always come in dramatic fashion. Sometimes it's a quiet moment in the car when you realize you're too tired to keep running. Sometimes it's a whisper while you're sitting in a meeting, wondering why you feel so empty despite all your achievements. But when it comes, you know, something inside shifts. For me, mindfulness wasn't just a technique, it was a lifeline. That single workshop didn't erase my stress overnight, but it gave me a glimpse of another way of living. And once you've seen that possibility, you can't unsee it. Here's the beauty. Mindfulness doesn't demand you to be perfect. You don't need to empty your mind or become a saint. You just need to notice. Notice the way stress tightens your shoulders. Notice how your breath speeds up when you're anxious. Notice when your inner critic is screaming louder than your own wisdom. Awareness itself is already a turning point. The Buddha's first teaching after enlightenment was simple. Suffering exists, and there is a way out. My suffering that day in the office bathroom was real, but so was the possibility of peace. That realization cracked open the door. And maybe, just maybe, as you read this, you feel that same door creaking open inside of you. Because if a few seconds of silence can shift everything, imagine what consistent practice can do. When you're caught in the storm of deadlines, emails, and endless meetings, it can feel like you're completely powerless. But here's the truth that changed my life, and the lives of millions of people who've walked this path before us. The most powerful tool for peace, clarity, and resilience isn't out there. It's already inside you. You don't need to buy it, earn it, or prove you deserve it. It's as close as your next breath. Mindfulness is not a luxury. It's not a hobby for people with too much free time. It's a secret weapon, always available, waiting to be remembered. And when you use it, everything, your work, your relationships, even the way you see yourself, begins to shift. Let me share with you 3 simple keys. They're not complicated. In fact, they're so simple you might be tempted to dismiss them. But if you let them sink in, they will transform the way you move through your day. 1. Breath is the anchor Thich Nhat Hanh often taught. Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. Imagine being on a small boat in the middle of a rough sea. The waves are high, the wind is wild, and you're afraid of being tossed around. What's the first thing you need? An anchor, something to hold you steady. In the workplace, the waves are your tasks, emails, and conflicts. Your breath is the anchor that keeps you from being swept away. I remember once, during a high-stakes presentation, my laptop froze mid-slide. My heart raced, panic rushed in, and I felt the wild horse of my mind about to drag me into disaster. But in that split second, I remembered the anchor. I took one deep, conscious breath. Inhale, exhale. That single breath didn't fix the laptop, but it grounded me enough to smile, crack a lighthearted joke, and calmly restart. What could have been a meltdown turned into a moment of connection with the audience. Jon Kabat-Zinn often tells his students, as long as you are breathing, there's more right with you than wrong with you. Your breath is proof that you are alive, present, capable of beginning again, right here, right now. 2. Now is the only time we own that. We live in a culture obsessed with the future. Promotions, retirement plans, the next vacation, always reaching, always running. But here's the radical truth. The future doesn't exist. The past is gone. The only time you actually have is this moment, right here. Sharon Salzberg says, mindfulness isn't difficult. We just need to remember to do it. And what we're remembering is that life is happening now, not tomorrow, not when you get the raise, not when everything finally settles down. It's here. At work, this means noticing the small things. The sound of your colleagues' laughter in the hallway, the warmth of the coffee cup in your hand. The satisfaction of finishing a task, no matter how small. When you're fully present, you stop missing your own life. There was a CEO in Silicon Valley who once admitted that despite building a billion-dollar company, he barely remembered the first 5 years because he was always focused on what came next. When he began practicing mindfulness, he realized he had been absent from his own success. His turning point came when he heard Jack Kornfield say, "The trouble is, you think you have time. The present moment is the only time we can live, love, create, and breathe. The rest is an illusion." 3. Awareness transforms pain. This is perhaps the most powerful key. Most of us spend our lives running from discomfort, stress, sadness, frustration. But what if the very thing we're running from is also the doorway to peace? The Buddha taught, suffering is a part of life, but mindfulness transforms suffering. By turning toward our pain with awareness, instead of avoiding it, we begin to see it clearly. And the moment we see it clearly, it starts to lose its grip. I once spoke with a nurse in Boston who worked endless shifts during the pandemic. She told me the hardest part wasn't the physical exhaustion. It was the emotional pain of seeing patients suffer. Every night she came home and cried, feeling powerless. Then she remembered a teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh. The way out is in. Instead of pushing away her pain, she began to sit with it. She would breathe, whispering to herself, "Hello, sorrow. I see you. I will take care of you." Slowly, her grief softened. It didn't disappear, but it transformed into compassion that gave her the strength to keep serving. Awareness doesn't erase pain. It transforms our relationship with it. What once felt like an enemy becomes a teacher. Now, let me be clear. These three keys, breath, presence, awareness, are not magic tricks. They won't eliminate your deadlines, erase your boss's emails, or stop your coworkers from being difficult. What they do is change you. They shift the way you meet every challenge, so that instead of being dragged by the wild horse of your restless mind, you gently take the reins. Think about it like this. Mindfulness is a superpower hidden in plain sight. You don't need to add hours to your schedule. You don't need to go on a 10-day silent retreat, though you can if you want. You just need to pause, breathe, notice. And in that pause, you rediscover the strength and clarity that were inside you all along. The Buddha's teachings, Thich Nhat Hanh's gentle guidance, and the voices of American teachers like Kabat-Zinn, Cornfield, and Salzburg all point to the same truth. The secret weapon is already yours. So the next time your day feels like it's collapsing, remember, your breath is the anchor. Now is the only time you own. Awareness transforms pain. 3 simple keys. A lifetime of freedom. Talking about mindfulness is one thing. Experiencing it, even for just a few seconds, is something else entirely. Words can inspire, but practice transforms. So right now, wherever you are reading this, I'd like to invite you into a simple 60-second experiment. You don't need candles. You don't need silence. You don't even need to close your eyes if you don't want to. All you need is your breath, your body, and your willingness to pause. Take a moment, sit back in your chair, let your hands rest on your lap or your desk. Gently notice your posture without judging it. And now, slowly take one deep breath in. Feel your lungs expand. Then exhale fully, letting your shoulders soften just a little. Breathe in again, this time noticing the coolness of the air as it enters your nose. Exhale, noticing the warmth as it leaves. Breathe in, silently saying to yourself, I am here. Breathe out, silently saying, this is enough. That's it. Nothing complicated. Just breathe, just presence. Pause for a few seconds here. Notice, did something shift, even slightly? Did the storm in your head quiet down for just a moment? Did your body feel a little lighter? If yes, congratulations, you've just experienced mindfulness. If not, that's okay too. Mindfulness is not about immediate results. It's about showing up. Sometimes the mind is wild, sometimes it's quiet, but every time you notice, you're already practicing. Thich Nhat Hanh often guided his students with this simple gatha. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. When I first heard this, I thought it was too simple, but the simplicity is the point. We've complicated our lives with schedules, notifications, and endless striving. Coming back to the breath is like stepping into a quiet garden after wandering through a noisy city. American meditation teacher Sharon Salzberg describes mindfulness as exercising the muscle of attention. Just like going to the gym, you don't become strong after one push-up, but even the first push-up matters. Likewise, this 1 minute of practice plants a seed that can grow if you water it daily. I remember once leading a corporate workshop where the group was skeptical. Lawyers, accountants, engineers, people trained to analyze and question everything. I guided them through this exact 1 minute breathing exercise. At the end, one participant raised his hand and said, half jokingly, I don't know what just happened, but for the first time in months, I felt like my brain stopped yelling at me. Everyone laughed, but many nodded. They knew exactly what he meant. This is why a mini experience matters. It's not theory, it's not philosophy, it's proof. Even 10 seconds of awareness can shift your state. If 10 seconds can do that, imagine what 10 minutes each morning could create. Jack Cornfield likes to say, after the ecstasy, the laundry. What he means is that mindfulness isn't about escaping your daily life. It's about bringing peace into the middle of it. The laundry, the emails, the meetings. A practice as small as a single mindful breath during a stressful call can be enough to prevent you from reacting harshly. A 2-minute pause before you open your inbox can set the tone for your entire day. So here's my invitation. Don't just read this. Try it. Take a mindful breath before your next meeting. Pause for 60 seconds before sending that reply. Notice the taste of your lunch without checking your phone. These micro moments are not trivial. They're the building blocks of a mindful life. Right now, as you finish this section, close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Take one more deep breath. Smile gently, even if just a half smile. You've just given yourself a gift, presence. And the more you practice, the more this presence will stop being an occasional visitor and start becoming your constant companion. By now, you've tasted it, maybe only for a few seconds, but you've felt what happens when the mind quiets down, when the breath becomes your anchor, when presence is no longer a theory but a lived moment. That tiny shift, so simple, yet so profound, is proof that change is possible. But let's be honest, one mindful breath doesn't erase years of habits, years of stress, or years of running on autopilot. I know this because I've been there. For a long time, I lived in a cycle of striving and exhaustion. No matter how much I achieved, it was never enough. I thought if I worked harder, pushed further, earned more, then maybe I'd finally feel at peace. But peace never came. What came instead were sleepless nights, tension in my body, and a constant inner critic whispering, "You're still behind. You're still not good enough." I carried that weight for years until mindfulness cracked the shell. Slowly, breath by breath, I learned that peace isn't something waiting for us at the end of the race. Peace is available in every step of the race itself. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way." That teaching was the lifeline I didn't know I needed. And it's not just philosophy, it's deeply practical. Imagine walking into your next meeting already grounded, calm, and present. Imagine writing your next email without the knot of anxiety in your stomach. Imagine coming home after work and being truly there for your loved ones, instead of carrying the office inside your head. This is not a fantasy. It's the natural result of practice. Jon Kabat-Zinn often reminds us that mindfulness is about falling awake. We don't add anything new. We wake up to what's already here. That awakening is not reserved for monks or spiritual masters. It's available to you, right now, at your desk, on your commute, or even in the middle of a difficult conversation. But here's the thing. You don't have to walk this path alone. I didn't. I had teachers, communities, and friends who encouraged me when I felt like giving up. Teachers like Jack Kornfield, who speaks of carrying both joy and sorrow in the same heart. Sharon Salzberg, who teaches that loving kindness is not just for others, but also for ourselves. Thich Nhat Hanh, who reminded the world that peace is every step. Their voices became lanterns lighting the way. And now, I want to extend that lantern to you. If 1 minute of mindfulness can shift your state, imagine what a daily practice could do for your entire life. Imagine how it could change the way you lead, the way you love, the way you show up, not just at work, but everywhere. This is why I created this channel, to offer a space where we can walk together, learning from ancient wisdom and modern science, weaving mindfulness into the fabric of our daily lives. You don't have to quit your job, move to a monastery, or wait for the right time. The right time is now. The right place is here. And the right step is the one you're about to take. So here's my heartfelt invitation. Join me. Practice with me. Let's build a new rhythm for life, not one of rushing and exhaustion, but one of awareness, compassion, and presence. Because if you and I can transform our own workplace attitudes, imagine what kind of ripple effect we could create. A calmer colleague, a kinder manager, a more patient friend. One mindful breath at a time, we can reshape not just our own lives, but the culture around us. The invitation is simple. Pause, breathe, begin again, and keep walking this path with us. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning. The alarm rings. Instead of reaching for your phone, instead of diving headfirst into yesterday's stress or tomorrow's worries, you pause. You take one mindful breath, Inhale, exhale. You notice the sunlight sneaking through the curtains. You feel the sheets beneath your hand. You smile, not because everything is perfect, but because you're here, alive, awake. You walk into work. The emails are still waiting. The deadlines are still real. But you are different. You're not rushing into the storm. You're standing in the middle of it with calm eyes and a steady heart. When a colleague speaks, you truly listen. When challenges appear, you meet them without panic. When stress knocks, you breathe and invite it in as a teacher, not an enemy. This is not a fantasy. It's the life mindfulness makes possible. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Smile, breathe, and go slowly." Such a simple instruction, yet imagine if our whole workplace culture reflected it. Imagine leaders who paused before speaking, coworkers who listened without distraction, and employees who ended the day not drained but nourished. The truth is, the world will not suddenly become calmer. The noise won't disappear, but you can. You can become the still point in the middle of the storm. You can become the presence that reminds others to breathe. You can carry mindfulness like a quiet lantern into every room you enter. Jon Kabat-Zinn often calls mindfulness a radical act of sanity. And that's what it feels like in today's world. Radical. Radical to pause instead of react. Radical to breathe instead of rush. Radical to choose peace in a culture addicted to speed. But this radical act doesn't just heal you, it inspires everyone around you. So here's the final picture I want to leave with you. You, tomorrow morning. Not rushing for your phone. Not drowning in yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's fears. You breathe. You smile. You step into your day with presence. The coffee tastes richer. Your conversations feel deeper, and even the challenges seem lighter because you are not lost in them. That's not a dream. That's mindfulness. And this is why I built Mindfulness, this channel dedicated to walking this path together. A place where ancient wisdom from the Buddha, the gentle teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, and the powerful voices of teachers like Sharon Salzberg, Jack Kornfield, and Jon Kabat-Zinn meet the reality of our everyday American lives. So I invite you one last time. Take a breath, smile softly, join this journey. Not someday, but today. Because peace is not waiting at the end of your to-do list. It's right here, in this very breath. Pause, inhale, exhale, and step into your life fully, beautifully, mindfully.